Well, we've nearly hit the midway point of the college football season. Alabama, a sweep of the Mississippi schools in the SEC. The Tide beat Mississippi State, a beatdown, if you will, in Starkville over the Bulldogs last week. Mike McCoy, Simone, Eli, we're going to break everything down for the Tide's big win over the Bulldogs. And then, of course, look ahead to a trip to College Station, Texas, where Alabama will now prepare for Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. Let's go head to head. Welcome in, everybody. Excited to be chatting with Mike McCoy again this week as Alabama prepares for their sixth game of the season. Mike joining us from Maximum Performance Institute in Bessemer. Mike, you've been making gains today?
Always. It was just blowing these arms up, a little something, trying to get us ready for the weekend.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of the weekend, Alabama will head over to College Station, Texas for the very hostile environment against the Aggies. But before we talk about Texas A&M, let's look back at last week. Alabama beats down the Bulldogs 40-17, the final. Mike, what are your generic overall thoughts from that performance?
I think Tyrese finally got him and just let Jalen be him. I think we get a chance to kind of watch him mature and grow to the quarterback that we are all expecting him to be. And, I think the offensive line played well. The secondary defense played outstanding. Looked like a complete game almost. I was satisfied with this week. I wasn't surprised as far as the beatdown was concerned. They beat him like they did that. Abuse.
Yeah, they certainly did. Jalen Milroe completed 10 passes for 164 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. It just seemed like he was way more comfortable, like he could trust the guys in front of him. And he said that this week is that he's growing more comfortable to stand in the pocket, make the passes he needs to, go through his progression. And it's really all about trust, Mike.
Without trust, if you don't have trust, it's just like a relationship. Those guys that you are, it's a family dynamic. It has to work across the board. If one person does not do their job, it's chaotic. So I was glad to kind of see the chemistry.
The rush game also impressive. 193 total yards on the ground. And we've talked about this every single week, Mike, is that when Alabama can consistently run the ball, they have a good amount of success, evenly distributed offensively. And I felt like we saw that in Starkville on Saturday.
I definitely do. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I'm a little worried about maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I think we're going to have to take that approach this weekend. I'm not trying to look too far ahead, but I think we're going to have our hands full. Milroe is going to have to beat them with his arm because they don't think that he can. Yeah. Nobody does.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a huge challenge at Texas A&M. Before we talk the Aggies, let's talk about this defense. What an unbelievable performance. You've been begging to see this old-style Alabama Kevin Steele defense. 3 interceptions forced, a pick 6. You had to have been pumped up watching this game.
Well, I'm not going to get too excited because I don't want it to be a fluke. I'm serious. It's like my little boy. Hey man, I expect you to do good. I don't get flowers for being a good daddy. That's what you're supposed to do. So when you got this A on your chest, it means something. Yeah. It got to mean something. You're supposed to be the best. Yeah. You're getting coached by the best coach in America.
That's a good way to put it. You got to keep it real, and I totally respect that. I do think that fans have a lot to be excited about because it seems like they do have their mojo back a little bit. Dallas Turner talked this week about just feeling like they're more comfortable. They're just going out there, trusting each other, and having fun, and getting back to that brand of football that people have come to expect from Alabama.
Well, I know y'all saw old Nick out there. That's Nick. I know.
Next topic that I had. Miss Terry must have lit that fire because he straight up said that it said get on their butts if they're not playing well, and boy did he deliver.
He's scared of her. Now I got a story. I know.
That makes for a good husband, by the way. Because someone tell my husband, y'all need to have a little bit of fear in your wife, and that's what marriage is about.
I'm not gonna argue because my wife may be watching this, so I'm not gonna argue. I'm just gonna nod. Okay.
Yeah. Listen, you know what? We know who runs the show. And Nick Saban, Miss Terry has been there through thick and thin, 50 plus years of marriage. And I know she didn't make it to the game in Starkville, but clearly she said something that had an impact on Coach when he was out there because he was lighting fires like it was 2009.
You know what? I call that parenting. That's your best parenting. That's like my
Mhm.
little boy get in trouble. I'm not with the general parenting. I don't care if I get counseled,
It's
none
hard
of
to
that.
do.
I don't do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I'm a man. My little
Yep.
boy, hey, you finna get this work. So
Yep.
my wife would be like, Mike, don't be so. Then she'll be like, go get him.
Yep.
So, it's
Yeah.
a tag team effort. So
Mhm.
Miss Terry on board. She know what Bama look like. Mama Bear spoke and got it. She got the rapping, and that's how it happened.
Yeah, with Nick Saban was trying the gentle parenting style. That's the new way nowadays. But I think it's pretty clear what shined through last Saturday, and I would not be surprised if we see that again. We know that this Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher rivalry, so to speak, has some bad blood to it. You go back 2 years ago, that huge debacle talking about NIL and the collectives, and then of course the upset in College Station. There's a lot of emotion tied to this game with Texas A&M, Mike.
I definitely agree. And one thing I can say, I don't think Jimbo's in the hot seat anymore. I think this game is going to kind of determine who's going to win the West and who's going to face either Tennessee and Georgia for the
Mhm.
SEC championship. So I'm looking for it. I think it's going to be a great story. I think it's going to be a great storyline
Yeah.
going into College Station. I'm a little nervous about it. It's going to be a nail biter.
Not only going into College Station, but against a team that right now has a lot of confidence. They did lose to Miami several weeks ago. They've then put together 3 wins, 2 in the SEC over Auburn and over Arkansas. Jimbo Fisher didn't shy away from the fact that this team has confidence going into this matchup, and they're licking their chops to get back at Alabama. That's how it is every single game, every single team, but especially with A&M.
I think Jimbo trying to make sure he keep that money. I
Yeah.
hope he ain't. I hope he ain't gonna. They don't do him like they did Oldron and LSU. You want this money so you can go.
Yeah.
Because if it's me, I'm taking the money and run. But
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done a great job recruiting. I think A&M has probably just as good of roster as anybody in the country, especially that running back that they have.
The Aggies have averaged 170 yards per game, and that's against Power 5 schools in the SEC. So obviously Arkansas and Auburn. Alabama does present one of the better run defenses, but something's got to give in this matchup.
Well, how I predict what we're going to do to win the game is we have to convert those third downs. That's going to be the biggest thing. If Jalen can break contain on those edges, because I know A&M, they're always going to be stacked up front. They have a good front four, and they have a good secondary. But if we can catch those guys out of line or not in coverage where they need to be, I promise you, it's going to be a game to remember. But Milroe has to do what Milroe does best.
Yeah.
He has to do that RPO, and we got to trust him. Just give him the keys to the car and let him play.
Jalen Milroe said this week that he learned a lot from last year's game that he started due to an injured Bryce Young. He turned the ball over 3 times. Alabama did come away with a win, but how beneficial is it for him to take that experience now with so much experience he has from then going into a hostile environment at College Station, Kyle Field?
Well, right now, I think he is going to be more comfortable because he doesn't really – I'm not going to say he doesn't have a backup, nobody to pressure him. The job is his to lose. Like, he's in the forefront. So, with that pressure kind of gone, and now I can focus on the main thing is just playing ball, trying to figure out how to win Saturday. I think it's going to be a completely game. It's going to be night and day. He's going to be that superstar. Again, I know everybody gets tired of me using that we think he can be. And I think he's going to beat everybody with his arm this weekend. Nobody is giving this kid a chance to beat you with his arm. I think his arm is just effective as his legs are.
We will see for sure. It's going to be a 2:30 kickoff. It's the SEC on CBS Game of the Week on Saturday at Texas A&M. And I feel like what you just said is a huge point for Jalen Milroe. You can tell now that he knows he's the guy, he's in the driver's seat, he can play loose. I think you can tell that in the way that he talks in postgame and pregame press conferences. The guy is just out there having fun, and he's taking responsibility for the mistakes that are out there, regardless of who it falls on. He's being the leader that you need him to be on and off the field, Mike.
Definitely. And one thing I can say, when your best player is your hardest worker, that's hard to beat. And I think just sitting back now, watching Coach Saban, UCF game, it could have been a Jedi mind trick. It could have been one of those things. Hey, man, I want to show you we need you. I need you to lead this team. Sometimes we don't often understand what Coach Saban is trying to teach us or pour into us a lot of times. So again, I think he's a great businessman, and a lot of these are business decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He always starts with the end in mind. What do I
Yep.
want the end result to be? So don't count Bama out, baby. Don't count him out.
Nick Saban doesn't do anything by mistake. He is the ultimate guru, and I think everyone knows that. All right, prediction time. Let's talk about what this will look like on Saturday. Come about 6 o'clock or so in College Station. Alabama only a 2.5-point favorite on the road. I think everyone knows Texas A&M is playing well. Alabama maybe not as strong as they have been in years past. Personally, I think there's going to be quite a few points on the board. I have it 35-21 Alabama beats Texas A&M, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Aggies jump out at home and the Tide need to settle in a little bit.
Really?
What you got?
42-35 Bama.
Okay.
I think it's going to be
a shootout.
It's going to be a shootout. I hope it's a shootout. Everybody thinks it's going to be a low-scoring defensive game. We don't have offensive weapons. I call that. I left my hat in the car. Big cap. I think we're going to play lights out this Saturday.
Well, we will see Alabama at Texas A&M for week 6 of the season. The Tide have put together 2 big wins over the Mississippi schools in the SEC. So, Mike, I feel like there is a decent amount of confidence on both sides of the ball as they hit the road for the Aggies. Let's do it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Head to Head. We look forward to this one. And, of course, we want to thank our sponsor, the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. We will see you next week.
Peace.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.